Ash Reborn, a time-traveling master's journey. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 21. Cerulean Gym, Challenge. Pokémon, Butterfree. Qualification, Purple. Level, LV11. Ability, Scale Powder. Skills, Tackle, String Shot, Supersonic, Confusion, Poison Powder, Stun Spore, Sleep Powder. Equipment, none. After evolution, all 3 scale powders with status conditions are learned. After flying around the room for several times, Butterfree landed in front of Ash, waving its short hands to express its joy of flying up to soaring in the sky after evolution. Ash listened, even though he didn't understand Pokémon language. Combining the current situation, by observing Butterfree's body movements, you can also feel its joy and chat with it for a few words. Afterwards, Ash released all the other Pokémon from the Pokeball, giving everyone time to communicate their feelings. Butterfree was captured by him during the Caterpie period, which was actually earlier than other Pokémon except Pikachu, but since it evolved into Metapod. So he stayed in the Pokeball and worked hard for evolution. He had never met the Pokémon that Ash captured later. This time he let everyone out to communicate with it. After all, they were all companions in the same team. When he reached the upper limit of Pokémon in his hands, he might have to live in Professor Oak's courtyard from time to time. It was always good to know each other better. When cultivating Pokémon, you can't just think of using them as tools for fighting. That would be too utilitarian, and it would be difficult to enjoy the joy of overcoming difficulties with Pokémon. In the evening, Xiao Zhang returned to the Pokémon Center with a lot of bags on his back. He wanted to ask Ash to have dinner together, but there was no response when he knocked on the door. He asked Nurse Joy, and she said that Ash had not gone out since he came back. So he took the spare room card from Nurse Joy. He gently opened the door. Ash curled up on the bed, holding Pikachu in his arms. Butterfree fell on the bedside and closed his eyes for a nap. In the corner, Milotic lay on the floor, breathing evenly. Pidgeotto was not far from it. Thinking carefully, it seems that she didn't come back yesterday afternoon. I don't know. Isn't Misty's home in Cerulean City? It's very likely that she went home. Well, it's possible. Then let's do this. After you challenge the Cerulean Gym, we will go to find Misty. In any case, Misty is our travel partner. At least we have to make sure that she doesn't have any accidents. Xiao Gang suggested seriously. Cerulean Gym has a reputation beyond expectations in Cerulean City. But this reputation has nothing to do with their status as gym leaders. The 3 sisters have gained a lot of fans just because of their super high looks and wonderful underwater ballet performance. Compared to Trainer, they are more like idols and celebrities. They have a large number of young male fans in Cerulean City. And today, there happened to be an underwater ballet performance by the 3 sisters. Ash and Brock followed the lively flow of people and entered the Cerulean Gym. Halfway through, they were stopped by the security guards who were maintaining order on the scene to check their tickets. Ash decisively showed his Pokémon Pokédex and said that he came to challenge the 3 sisters as a gym challenger. Brock was released by the security guards as a partner. When the 2 entered the venue, the underwater ballet officially began. The stands were full of young men, and it was estimated that there were basically no trainers who came to challenge the gym. Because they didn't buy tickets, Ash and the others could only stand in the corner. Ash admired this elegant underwater ballet with a critical attitude. Yeah. Although he doesn't understand ballet. But big white legs and big breasts are justice, nothing wrong with it. As for Brock, who was always lustful, he had no interest in Misty's sister, who was not much older than her. The performance was over, and the audience began to leave one by one. Ash made up an excuse and asked Brock to stop the 3 sisters who were about to leave work. He went backstage to find the Rocket Trio dressed as gym security personnel. Pikachu used Thunderbolt to knock the Rocket team to the ground before they could send out Pokémon. He uncovered the pumping robot covered with black cloth in the corner not far behind the trio. Ash smiled with satisfaction, and the task of assisting Nurse Joy in catching Thief was completed. In order to prevent the Rocket Trio from waking up and running away, Ash found a hemp rope from the warehouse and tied them up tightly, so that they couldn't even move their fingers. Then Ash returned to the front desk and was stopped by Brock. The 3 sisters, who already looked a little impatient, challenged the gym. Ash, you are finally here, help me explain. I almost let others think I am a crazy fan who disturbed them. Gon said to Ash with some grievance. Ash was a little amused. The 3 sisters were all very beautiful, but unfortunately they were not the mature women that Gon liked the most. Hello, I am Ash from Pallet Town. I want to challenge the Cerulean Gym. Hey! Another trainer from Pallet Town? After listening to Ash's self-introduction, the three sisters' faces turned slightly pale. Has the gym owner met a trainer from Pallet Town before? From the faces of the three sisters, Ash could roughly guess that the Pallet Town rookies who challenged the Cerulean Gym before him must have beaten them badly. In the original world line, their Pokémon were all sent to the Pokémon Center for treatment, and in the end, Misty replaced them. The third sister Lily nodded. Yes, the trainer from your Pallet Town was too heavy-handed. The second sister Violet smiled and looked at the eldest sister Sakura. Sister, your seal just happened to be picked up from the Pokémon Center. This time it must be you who can fight. Ah. This. Sakura's voice was a little discouraged. The three Pallet Town trainers who came to challenge before, the three sisters played separately and were beaten to a pulp. As a result, because her seal recovered faster, she has to be beaten again now. Sister, Ash is the last one to come from the Pallet Town trainer. Maybe his strength is not as abnormal as the first three. Alliance rules, our gym leaders cannot refuse the challenger's request for a battle. Violet leaned close to her sister Sakura's ear and whispered. None of the three sisters was willing to accept Ash's challenge. But they didn't want to be punished by the Alliance because of this. Episode 22. Misty, Second Gym Battle. Prepare for battle, Seal. Pokémon, Seal, Qualification, Blue, Level, LV16. Sakura hesitated for a moment but still threw the Pokeball. Her Seal was of a very low level and was trained quite normal. Standing in the water field, his eyes were a little cowardly. Apparently, like its trainer Sakura, he was basically not interested in Pokémon battles and had a weak will. It can only be said that it is worthy of being the weakest gym in the Kanto region. Since the three sisters took over the Cerulean Gym from their parents, the difficulty of the gym challenge has dropped sharply. Sometimes you can even get a Cascade badge without fighting, making the gym badges in Cerulean City almost everywhere. There is no difference between the trainer who comes to challenge and the one who directly gets the badge. It can only be said that fortunately the three sisters have found another way to maintain the popularity of the Cerulean Gym by performing water ballet. Of course, it is also related to the strictness of the Alliance's review. After all, there are many popular part-time gym trainers in other regions, such as Ma Xiao, the gym leader of Laver City in Kalos region. A popular model, now a fashion designer, she is also quite capable as a gym trainer. Ash shook his head and threw Milotic's Pokeball. Considering the mission requirements, he could only send Milotic to fight without attribute restraint. Wow! What kind of Pokémon is this? It's so beautiful. Lily and Violet, who were watching, were amazed at Milotic's beauty. This made Ash blush again. It's called Milotic, and it's the evolution of Pokémon Fiba. As a water-type gym leader, he didn't even know a water-type Pokémon. Ash was fooled by these two sisters. The battle started, and neither side took it seriously. Sakura was not strong enough, and Ash didn't fight too hard considering that they would be a family in the future. Command Milotic to approach Seal and tie him up to end the fight. Milotic, who was entangled with Seal, didn't exert much strength. Sakura, who noticed Ash's intention, looked at her with gratitude. She decisively raised her hand to admit defeat. It can only be said that the three sisters' minds were all used in performance, and their talent in commanding battles was not a little bit worse than Misty's. If it was Misty who fought him, although she would lose, at least she would not let Milotic approach Seal so easily. Ash, this is the proof of your victory in the gym battle. Please accept this Cascade badge. Sakura walked in front of Ash, took out a blue teardrop-shaped badge, and handed it to Ash. Ash nodded and was about to reach out to take it. Wait! A delicate shout came from behind him. Ash, who heard the voice, raised his mouth slightly. Since leaving yesterday, Misty might have been preparing for a gym battle with her own gym. She knew the fighting level of her three sisters very well. Misty, why are you here? We said we would come to you after the gym battle. In the spectator seats, Xiao Zheng's narrowed eyes slightly opened because of surprise. Facing the mixed reactions of the crowd. Because I am the youngest of the four Cerulean sisters. No, it should be the three beautiful sisters and the ugly duckling sister of the Cerulean Gym. Violet, the second sister with blue hair, said. Hearing this, Misty stared at her sister Violet unhappily. But because she did boast when she left home that she would never come back until she became a water-type Pokémon Master, she felt a little guilty at this moment. Except for the gentle eldest sister Sakura, Misty's other two sisters obviously like to deliberately make her angry. Misty has always been a person who never admits defeat. Fortunately, Ash reacted quickly and immediately said that Misty was only here to accompany him to challenge the Cerulean gym. Before deciding to come to Cerulean City, she had advised herself to take a detour and go directly to Vermilion City. The bickering between the sisters was quickly suppressed by Ash. Turning the topic back to the gym battle. Ash, the battle just now doesn't count. My sisters are not good at fighting. You have to beat me to get the Cascade badge. Misty stared at Ash with burning eyes. She saw the battle between Ash and the eldest sister Sakura just now. For such a gym battle, the eldest sister Sakura might as well give the Cascade badge directly to Ash. What's more, she really wants to have a serious fight with Ash, and she hopes that this gym battle can play a certain role in Ash's future battle in the Indigo Plateau Conference. Okay, you set the rules. Well, then use the 2v2 battle rules. Misty nodded, took a deep breath, and reached for the Pokeball belonging to Gyarados on her waist. Plop! Accompanied by a deafening roar. Gyarados' huge body fell into the pool, stirring up waves. Misty actually subdued a Gyarados? The three Sakura sisters were startled by the Gyarados that appeared in front of Misty, and they all exclaimed. As Cerulean gym leaders, they were not as unfamiliar with Gyarados as Milotic. Not to mention that Gyarados was already famous in the Kanto region, the four sisters had played with the Gyarados raised by their parents at close range when they were young. The reason for the surprise was mainly because Misty was able to subdue Gyarados. Gyarados has a ferocious personality and is difficult to deal with. The key is that Misty once crawled into its mouth when she was playing with Gyarados when she was young. That accident scared her terribly. Since then, she dared not approach Gyarados. Unexpectedly, now she has overcome the shadow of her childhood. However, even though Gyarados had his back to her, Misty's face was still a little pale, and her fists were clenched. Misty, you're fine, Gyarados is your partner. Not scary at all, just focus on the battle now. Misty comforted herself inwardly. Facing Misty's Gyarados, Ash's Milotic still held his head high, and was not intimidated by it. In terms of size alone, Misty's Gyarados is even shorter than Ash's Milotic. Gyarados' strong Hideki field mainly comes from its huge size and that ferocious face. When its size is even smaller than Milotic, the so-called deterrent power is also eliminated. This Gyarados is slightly higher in level than Milotic, but the huge gap in qualifications and talents cannot be made up by level. Episode 23. Winning, the effect of intimacy. Gyarados, a dual attribute of water and flying. If the system did not require him to send Pokémon with the same attribute or a Pokémon whose attribute is restrained, Pikachu could easily send Gyarados away. There was no other way. For this intimacy, he had to work hard. Gyarados, use Twister. Misty took the lead in commanding Gyarados to attack. Twister is not very powerful, but it has a very high hit rate. And considering the civil war of the same attribute, water-based moves obviously have no effect on Milotic. Misty chose to use Twister to try to suppress Milotic first. Pokémon battles change rapidly. But there is a big difference between controlling the rhythm of the battle and passive defense. As the leader of the Cerulean gym, she knew that Ash was the kind of trainer who would not give up even if he was right. Once he got the upper hand, he would definitely launch a fierce attack like a tide. So she chose to strike first. Milotic, we're using Twister. Milotic's tail hit the water, sweeping up a huge waterspout and pressing back towards Gyarados. Bang! Gyarados was hit by the Twister that pushed back. The difference in qualifications and talents is there. Even though Milotic's level is lower than Gyarados, his moves are much more powerful. Gyarados, use Water Gun. Milotic, disarming voice. Gyarados, who was a little slow in reaction, was about to use Water Gun. He was disturbed by the disarming voice coming from his ears, and showed a painful expression. Milotic, dive into the water and use Dragon Tail. The next moment, Milotic dived into the water and swam quickly in the direction of Gyarados. Gyarados, watch the opportunity, prepare Ice Fang. Here, Ash suddenly changed his strategy and let Milotic dive into the water. Misty was a little anxious after all. The attacker's reaction is always faster than the defender's. Milotic emerged from the water behind Gyarados and hit Gyarados back with a Dragon Tail. Roar! Gyarados immediately let out a high roar of pain. But after taking a Dragon Tail from Milotic, Gyarados reluctantly used Ice Fang to hit Milotic. Unfortunately, ice only does 1/2 damage to water Pokémon. Milotic, tie it up, throw it out. In the water, Milotic quickly wrapped around Gyarados with his size and flexible movements. Boom boom. With all his strength, he actually threw the huge Gyarados directly out of the water field, causing the gym to tremble violently. After suffering continuous heavy blows, Gyarados finally couldn't hold on. He tilted his head and lost his ability to fight. The three Cerulean sisters in the audience were all shocked. What kind of mock-amp is this? Can a Gyarados of this size be thrown out? Sure enough, Ash had already shown mercy to them. If the eldest sister Sakura's seal was hit like this, she would definitely be sent to the Pokémon Center for rescue. It can only be said that it was the thick-skinned Gyarados. Ash, you are really amazing. But I won't give up. Take back Gyarados and throw out the Pokeball. In the flash of white light, Starmie took over, level LV28. Before she captured Gyarados, this was her main Pokémon. Compared to Gyarados, Starmie is less threatening to Milotic, especially after it casts Aqua Ring. Starmie's swift, water gun hit Milotic basically like tickle. During the battle, Misty ordered Starmie to dive, trying to imitate Milotic's previous offensive routine. Unfortunately, it was too small and was swept up into the sky by Milotic's water tornado. During the fall, it was blown away by Milotic's dragon tail. Bang! Starmie fell heavily on the field outside the pool. He immediately fell into a coma. Contest condition. At this point, both Misty's Pokémon lost their combat capabilities. After defeating Misty's two Pokémon in succession, Milotic also rose from LV24 to LV25. Ding! Cerulean Gym, perfect challenge mission completed. Mission rewards, 30,000 points, rare candy, 1 to 30, level X1, Cerulean Four Sisters intimacy increased by 80%. Suddenly, the three Cerulean sisters looked at Ash with brilliant eyes. Looking at it this way, Ash, he's pretty handsome. Sure enough, it's not realistic to expect Misty to take over the gym. If not, let Ash marry into our family. That's great. Let him take care of the gym, and we can perform with peace of mind in the future without worrying about being watched by the Alliance. After handing the Cascade badge to Ash, Misty blushed when she heard the three sisters' discussion. At the same time, she was a little disappointed. She tried her best to fight with Ash in the gym. In addition to giving Ash experience, she also wanted to motivate her three sisters, even if they were a little weak. She had to play like a Cerulean gym leader. Every time she played badly, or even gave away the badge for free, it was a huge blow to the reputation of the Cerulean gym. Over time, the only trainers who came to challenge the Cerulean gym were those who liked to take shortcuts. The really powerful trainers would choose to avoid the Cerulean gym and challenge stronger gyms. Of course, the water ballet is very popular, but this is a water gym for trainers to challenge. She didn't dare to hope that the Pokémon Alliance would always let her three sisters be so willful. Unfortunately, her three sisters' brains can't accommodate any knowledge related to battles. Such a wonderful battle, the three of them actually wanted to recruit Ash to be the Cerulean gym leader, such a strange thing. Misty, who was bored, was not interested in continuing to bicker with her second and third sisters, and decisively asked Ash and Xiaozhang to leave. Handsome boy, come to Cerulean gym next time. We'll perform water ballet for you then. Ha ha ha. Hearing the teasing voices of the three sisters behind her, Misty took Ash's hand and fled, leaving Cerulean gym. Ash, don't take it to heart. The sisters must have gone crazy today. Ash waved his hand calmly. It's okay, I don't care. In fact, at this moment, his heart was already blooming with joy. The rewards of the Perfect Gym Challenge have begun to show their power. Next, just wait for Misty's intimacy to be full, and a large number of points and top-quality water Pokémon eggs will be in your hands immediately. Episode 24. Vermilion City, rich rewards. What should I do? I want to go on a trip with Ash. Second sister, don't say that. From the way Misty looks at Ash, she obviously likes Ash. Don't make things worse. Lily looked at her second sister Violet in surprise, her face slightly red. Somehow, she also had a good impression of Ash. It's just that the second sister Violet said it before her. Okay, let's not talk about these things for now. You should be able to see why Misty insisted on fighting today. Eldest sister Sakura interrupted the two younger sisters' frivolous topics and said seriously. She could see the disappointment in Misty's eyes. She also understood why Misty was disappointed. It's just that the three sisters really have no talent in fighting. It's helpless to rely on water ballet to maintain the qualification of the gym, and she also knows the possible negative impact. In order to keep the inheritance of the gym that her parents have worked hard to run. As the eldest sister in the family, all Sakura can do now is to continue to support it and try her best in performance and fighting. Like Misty said, lose in a glamorous way. When Misty grows up and attacks, I will give her the responsibility of revitalizing the gym. I hope Misty can grow quickly in the trip she is looking forward to and work hard towards the set goal. Traveling is the only way for Pokémon Trainer to grow. Misty was only away for a while. After returning, she showed a strength far beyond her usual level. Gyarados, who used to be too scared to handle, can now barely control and command the battle. When it comes to overcoming the shadow of Gyarados, Sakura can't help but give the credit to Ash, Misty's companion. Her intuition tells her that Misty's growth is inseparable from Ash. Thinking of this, the bold ideas that the sisters just mentioned jokingly lingered in Sakura's mind again. If Misty and Ash can really get together with them, the future Cerulean Gym will definitely become one of the most powerful gyms in the Kanto region. Police station, reception room. Thank you very much, Ash. Thanks to you for helping catch the thieves of Team Rocket. Officer Jenny bowed to Ash sincerely to express her gratitude. The company that was stolen is well known in Cerulean City, which puts her under a lot of pressure. The boss also pressured her to solve the case as soon as possible. Just when she was extremely anxious but couldn't find any clues, Ash and his team appeared. He handed the 3 members of Team Rocket to her directly. At first she was a little skeptical. But after seeing the pumping robot made of huge water pipes and large engines, she immediately confirmed that Ash did not lie to her. The robot was returned to the stolen company, and the 3 members of Team Rocket were sent to prison again. Officer Jenny, these 3 guys are cunning. You can't let them run away this time. Misty frowned and said. When leaving Cerulean Gym, when Ash dragged the Rocket Trio out of the Cerulean Gym storeroom, she just realized that these 3 guys had planned to attack Cerulean Gym, so they couldn't let them go easily. Don't worry, I promise they won't be released easily this time. Officer Jenny replied with a smile. Ding. The thief of the theft incident has been successfully arrested and handed over to Cerulean City Officer Jenny. Reward, Qualification Enhancement Potion. The potential of Pokémon with qualification below Gold is increased by 1 level after use. Jenny's family intimacy is increased by 10%. The reward was stored in the system space as usual. Ding. Rare Candy, level 1 to 30, has been used on Pikachu. Pikachu level, from LV30 to LV31. Rare Candy, level 1 to 20, x10 has been used on Butterfree. Pikachu level, from LV11 to LV21. After leaving the police station, in the Pokémon Center, after restoring the handheld Pokémons, Ash used the excuse of going to the bathroom to take out all the rare candy in the system space and feed it to Butterfree and Pikachu. While the level was raised, Butterfree also learned new skills: Psybeam, Whirlwind, Airblade. Return to the Pokémon Center lobby. Ash returned to Misty and Xiaozhang, who were sitting in the corner. Because of the disappointment with her 3 sisters, Misty was depressed and silent. When she saw Ash coming, she did not express anything. Looking at Misty, who was in a tangled mood, Ash moved his lips, but he didn't say anything in the end. Every family has its own problems. He didn't want to brainwash Misty with those hot-blooded toxic chicken soup. Ash is really not good at comforting others. He stared at Misty quietly, giving her a gentle, comforting look. This is his unique way of comforting, focusing on companionship. As the heroine of the original series, Misty is tough enough. This difficulty is obviously not going to knock her down. All Ash can do now is not to make a fuss and wait for Misty to figure it out herself. Ash, I've thought it through. I will continue to travel and strive to become the best water trainer. I will support the entire Cerulean Gym. At the Pokémon Center, he took over the restored Starmie and Gyarados from Nurse Joy. Misty's mood also returned to normal. She is lively and cheerful, and she digests all kinds of negative emotions quickly. Well, as a travel partner, I will help you too. You are so nice, Ash. The atmosphere between the 2 of them suddenly became ambiguous. Then, Ash, our next city. Xiao Gang suddenly interrupted, breaking the delicate atmosphere. That is naturally Vermilion City. As soon as Ash finished speaking, the system simultaneously released the Gym Challenge task. Ding. Gym Task Trigger, Challenge Vermilion Gym, Get Badge. Basic Challenge, defeat the gym leader, win, and reward 20 W points. Advanced Challenge, defeat all Pokémon of the Vermilion Gym leader and keep all 3 Pokémon in combat, reward 500,000 points, 10 perfect insulation balls. The probability of capturing electric Pokémon increases by 200%. Perfect challenge. Defeat the Vermilion gym leader with reverse attributes throughout the whole process. Reward 800,000 points, 10 rare candy, 1 to 40 levels, and increase the intimacy of Magishare by 80%. If the Pokémon in hand is not restrained by attribute, you can use Pokémon with the same attribute. After reading the description of the task reward, Ash did not hesitate. Decisively choose to take on the advanced challenge task of the Vermilion gym leader. Magishare of the Vermilion gym is a sturdy man, and Ash is not interested in his intimacy at all. Especially after seeing the effect of the intimacy improvement. Although Magishare is not only the Vermilion gym leader, but also the executive of Team Rocket, it is beneficial for him to improve intimacy. Ash still firmly chose the advanced challenge. What a joke, he didn't want to be stared at by a man's strange eyes. Episode 25. Beast AJ breaks the winning streak. Pidgeotto, use Hurricane. Who? The whistling wind blew the Raticate on the opposite side away, and then it fell heavily to the ground. On the way to Vermilion City, Ash encountered many passers-by trainers who challenged him. The level of their Pokémon was similar to that of wild Pokémon, but the experience points they could provide to Pidgeotto were much higher. After 20 consecutive wins, Pidgeotto's level increased from LV 28 to LV 30. Learned new moves Agility and Feather Dance. Agility can relax the body and make it light, so that Agility can greatly increase its speed. This move is very important for Pidgeotto, who focuses on speed. The passerby took back the Raticate, who lost its fighting ability. Your Pidgeotto is so powerful. If it were you, you might be able to defeat that A.J. Which A.J? Misty looked at the passerby trainer curiously. According to him, a trainer named Beastmaster AJ built a gym not far ahead and has been on a winning streak. Oh. Really? Then I want to go and see it. Ash showed an interested look. Ding. Trigger the plot mission, defeat Beastmaster AJ, interrupt his winning streak and make him change his mind and set off on a journey. Mission reward, trump card flying skills, make flying Pokémon understand the true meaning of flying skills and control the wind field. Control the wind field, a high-level skill of flying Pokémon Masters. When Tailwind, Pidgeotto's speed can be faster than usual. Such a good thing must not be missed. Ash decisively accepted the task. The group came to a simple tent beside the road. The signboard said 98 consecutive wins. A huge tent and a slightly simple battlefield is the so-called Beastmaster AJ's gym. You came just in time. It seems that today is the day to get 100 consecutive wins and start the journey. Really? Then I'm afraid you will never be able to set off. Ash looked at AJ, who had a dark green hedgehog head and a long whip in his hand, and laughed. It's not difficult to beat AJ. At this moment, Ash is still thinking about how to persuade him to leave after defeating him. Rather than starting to accumulate wins again. Huh. You are so arrogant, then give it a try. Get ready for battle, Sandshrew. Pokémon, Sandshrew, qualification, blue, level, LV 26. The size and skin color of this Sandshrew are very good. It seems that it should be the trump card Pokémon carefully cultivated by AJ. Although the trainers on this road are very weak, and some guys' Pokémon levels are not even as good as wild ones. But being able to win 98 consecutive victories can still prove the strength of A.J's Sandshrew. Milotic, play with it. In the original world, A.J often asked Sandshrew to dive. He wanted Sandshrew to overcome his fear of water with willpower. Ash planned to approach from this angle. Let him realize the harm of staying here and working in isolation, and change his mind. A white light flashed, and Milotic appeared. Wow, I've never seen a water-type Pokémon before. But he was not afraid, because his Sandshrew was no longer afraid of water-type moves after hard work. Snap. A.J swung the long whip in his hand and lashed it on the ground. Sandshrew moved upon hearing the news, and it rolled out at high speed after a high splash and rushed towards Milotic. Water gun. Milotic raised his head slightly, and a water gun accurately hit Sandshrew in the air and sent it flying. Bang. Through the mountain, Sandshrew fell to the ground and let out a painful growl. What? Sandshrew, cheer up. Haven't you overcome your fear of water-based moves long ago? A.J obviously couldn't accept this result. However, Ash didn't give him a chance to think. Sandshrew, who had just stood up, was hit by another water pulse from Milotic before he could take action. Sandshrew, wake up. Pa. This time, no matter how he swung the whip in his hand, Sandshrew, who was in the chaotic contest condition, couldn't hear it. Sandshrew began to attack himself in a daze. Then he was defeated by Milotic's water gun. From start to finish, the battle was over in less than a minute. A.J claimed that Sandshrew, who was uniquely not afraid of water, failed to pose any threat to Milotic throughout the battle. I lost. You are very powerful, Ash from Pallet Town. It seems that my winning streak will start again. A.J wanted to change the sign with his head down. At this time, Ash called him out. Wait, do you really think that your so-called training is effective? What do you want to say? A.J looked at Ash and frowned. As a trainer, you made a mistake. What is it? It is your responsibility to help Pokémon play to their strengths and avoid their weaknesses. Instead of thinking about letting Sandshrew overcome its fear of water, it is better to increase its speed and move power to avoid being hit by the opponent's water Pokémon skills, and then take the opportunity to launch a counterattack. Ash explained to him patiently. In the final analysis, A.J still fell into a misunderstanding. Even if ground Pokémon can overcome its fear of water, it does not mean that it can weaken the damage of water skills. The so-called playing to one's strengths and avoiding one's weaknesses is naturally to maximize the strengths of Pokémon while preventing the enemy Pokémon from attacking one's weaknesses. It is okay to do some corresponding special training appropriately, but taking waterproof training as the main course is putting the cart before the horse. Seeing AJ's expression somewhat confused, Ash took advantage of the victory and then changed the topic to no winning streak, no traveling. Ash briefly explained the interests to him. He also pointed out that the level of the passerby trainer was too low, and such a winning streak was basically meaningless. After a lot of persuasion, AJ was finally convinced by him. He decided to pack up his makeshift gym and set off on the journey to challenge the gym trainer. Ding! Successfully defeated the beast user AJ and persuaded him to embark on the journey. Reward: Trump card flying member skills, make flying Pokémon understand the true meaning of flying skills and control the wind field. Ash immediately smiled with satisfaction. Episode 26. Pokémon School in the Fog. Leaving AJ's simple gym, Ash and his group continued to move towards Vermilion City. On the way, they were shrouded in fog and lost their sense of direction. Xiao Gang, how long will it take us to get out of this damn fog? Misty walked forward with legs as heavy as lead, swaying from side to side. I don't know. Ash shook his head, feeling speechless. The fog covered a large area, even connecting to the clouds. There was a possibility that Pidgeotto and Butterfree would get lost if they were released. At this time, they had no way to identify the direction. There is no useful information available from the map. At present, we are lost. Now we can only wander around and try our luck to see if we can meet a local to ask for directions or ask someone to be a guide. Putting away the map, Xiao Gang spread his hands helplessly. Ash nodded in agreement. At present, this is the best way except to stay where we are and wait for the fog to dissipate. If it were any other time, he would not care. But if I remember correctly, there seems to be a Pokémon Academy nearby. Just find it and ask the students for directions. However, Ash still underestimated the scope of the thick fog. After several hours, they were still wandering in the fog. Seeing Xiaojiang and Misty were already out of breath. Ash immediately suggested to rest for a while. It was time for lunch. Xiaojiang cooked, Misty was responsible for drinking water, and Ash went to find firewood. Pikachu, it seems that you really can't do without fire Pokémon when traveling. Pikachu. Walking in the foggy forest, Ash made marks and chatted with Pikachu. They have arrived at the Pokémon Academy, and it won't be long before he can capture Charmander. Ash has been coveting the talented old Spray in the original world line who is hard against Articuno. With the humorous training method of the silly thing in the early stage, the old pen can achieve such an impressive record, which shows that he has a strong talent. With the system in hand, Ash is confident that he can train Charizard to be several times stronger than in his previous life. Pika. Just then, Pikachu seemed to have discovered something. He called out twice to the front. Ash looked carefully and found that it was bursts of fire. Fire? Could it be a human or a fire Pokémon? Ash and Pikachu walked forward quickly. No matter which one it is always worth exploring. Take a closer look. A boy with short brown hair is being scolded by 5 young men holding candles and dressed in luxurious clothes. Such a bad guy, is he still a student in the Pokémon class? That's right, I don't want to study in the same class with you if you are so bad. You don't even know at what level Pidgey will evolve. I advise you to be more conscious and leave our class. The laughter of several people's power trip was particularly harsh to Ash. The brown-haired boy kneeling on the ground kept apologizing. This is just like school bullying. Wait a minute, what are you doing? Ash, who couldn't stand it, stopped them decisively and walked up to help the brown-haired boy up. Are you okay? No, thank you. The brown-haired boy looked at Ash and Pikachu, who suddenly appeared with some surprise. Don't meddle in other people's business, this is our own special training. Such a bad guy can't stay in our class, this is our friendship. Looking at the smug expressions on the faces of several people, Ash frowned slightly. It can only be said that these guys perfectly fit his stereotype of those arrogant noble children. Humph. I can't stand your bullying of the weak. At this time, Misty walked out from the side. After a few words of bickering, the 5 students of the Pokémon Noble Academy turned around and left. Ash and the other 2 took the brown-haired boy to meet Xiaojiang. When it comes to the Pokémon class, Xiaojiang immediately explained. Pokémon Research Class, Pokémon Training School. After graduating from this school, you can get the qualification to participate in the Pokémon Alliance directly without taking the practical test. This also means that after participating in this research class, you don't need to go to the various cities in Kanto to challenge the gym, and you can get the qualification in a short time without collecting badges. For those who want to become a Pokémon trainer, it is definitely a dream cram school. A trainer who has not been tempered by various battles will not be able to win the Pokémon Alliance competition. Ash sneered at such an academy. And because it is a thorough education with full accommodation, the admission fee and teaching fee are astronomical. It is said that this is a prestigious school that only the second-generation rich people in the Kanto region can attend. Misty said, her tone seemed to be a little disappointed. She had just witnessed a school bullying, which made her have a bad first impression of this prestigious school. Ash and the other 2 turned their attention to the brown-haired boy. Can you take us to visit your school? You ask. On the way, through a simple conversation with the brown-haired boy, Ash learned that his family can only be considered middle class. His parents worked hard to send him here. The school's grades are assessed according to the qualification level. Primary qualification is equivalent to having 2 badges. Intermediate is equivalent to having 4 badges. Trainer strength. Advanced and graduated students can directly register for the Pokémon Alliance conference without traveling around to collect badges. Then, Ash asked about the Power Trip boys. When he heard that he attributed the training of Pidgey to evolve into Pidgeotto and learn new skills to those Power Trip second-generation rich kids, Ash also shook his head. It was just a bunch of useless playboys who relied on their family background to bully weak students, and they actually brainwashed the brown-haired boy like this. Ash and his group's impression of this so-called aristocratic school became worse and worse. Episode 27. Top-notch Master Ball, Pokémon Academy of Nobles. Simulated Battle Hall. The brown-haired boy's elation clicked on a machine. This is the Pokémon Simulated Battle Hall, where everyone usually fights. Here, how do we fight here? Misty asked curiously. The brown-haired boy quickly started a battle, and chose the Pokémon with restrained attributes to win in the game. For example, Misty, you are a Pokémon trainer of the Cerulean gym, you will definitely not be able to beat my Weepinbell. If you don't believe me, just watch. As he said, the brown-haired boy started another game. This time it was a match between Weepinbell and Starmie. In a turn-based battle, he controlled Weepinbell to easily defeat Starmie with a razor leaf. Misty's forehead was filled with black lines. Pokémon battles are not games. You dare to underestimate the Cerulean gym? Let's have a real battle. Okay, you definitely have no chance of winning. Hearing this, the brown-haired boy confidently sent out Weepinbell to fight. As a result, he was sent away by Misty's Starmie with a water gun. Looking at the brown-haired boy's face full of doubts about life, Ash also shook his head and sighed, this is really stupid. Hey, who told you to bring these annoying guys into the school and occupy our battlefield? At this time, a yellow-haired hedgehog-headed boy came over with a few unruly students. It was the few people who scolded the brown-haired boy in the mist at that time. Occupy? No one uses this place, okay? Misty was immediately unhappy and retorted directly. No one uses it, and you outsiders don't have the right to use it. So, you can represent this school? Ash raised his eyebrows and stared at the yellow-haired boy with interest. A bunch of rich second generations who have nothing to do and have nothing to do. After walking in the fog for so long, Ash was also very bored. It was rare for a clown to volunteer to contribute to the fun, so he would naturally not let it go. Of course I can. At this time, the yellow-haired hedgehog head was obviously a little lacking in confidence. Their family did have some background in the Kanto region. But it was not enough to influence the leadership of this academy. Don't stutter, show your confidence. Ash was too lazy to continue mocking him. Turned around and asked the brown-haired boy to take them to other places. The brown-haired boy was also eager to leave here as soon as possible. Stop, who allowed you to take them around? The Pokémon Academy has many Pokeballs containing rare Pokémon. If these Pokémon are stolen, you can't take responsibility. The yellow-haired hedgehog head asked the brown-haired boy in a stern voice. The minions behind him lined up and blocked the way of Ash and others. Get out of here, or I'll be rude to you. Pikachu, Thunderbolt ready. Ash patted the pale brown-haired boy on the shoulder, stepped in front of him, and pierced the hedgehog-headed boy with a cold gaze. Pika, golden arcs flashed on the electric bags on both sides of Pikachu's cheeks. What do you want to do? This is the Noble Pokémon Academy. If you dare to let Pokémon attack me, the Pokémon Alliance will not let you go. The hedgehog-headed boy said in a trembling voice. After all, he is just a second-generation rich man who has never seen the world. After staying in the academy for a while and enjoying the privileges given by the Alliance, he had an illusion. Pokémon trainer doesn't accept such random people. Pikachu, since he wants to try, then you. Please wait a moment. At this time, a female voice sounded from behind. Interrupting Ash's instructions to Pikachu, turning around, she was wearing a JK miniskirt, revealing her fair legs, long wine-red hair, delicate and beautiful face. There was also a badge representing a junior student on her chest. Hey! Top Proud, the head of the junior students in the academy, Miss Top Proud, I didn't expect that even she was alarmed. Surrounding Top Proud, many male and female students cast respectful eyes at her. What do you want? Ash's attitude was a little cold. The top-notch boy seemed to not care about Ash's attitude, and looked at the brown-haired boy beside Misty. Your rival is a Cerulean gym, and her Pokémon level is much higher than your Weepinbell. When the level difference is too obvious, attribute restraint will not work at all. Do you understand what I mean? The brown-haired boy was very excited to be taught by the top-notch boy, nodding repeatedly and replied, yes, I remember. Nodding with satisfaction, the top-notch boy looked at Ash again. Your normal, a Pikachu, is not too high in level. Don't you know? No rookie trainer will choose it as Earl Dervish's partner. And you stay outside all day, which makes me think you are an amateur. Let me remind you, don't let Pikachu evolve, its cute appearance is most suitable for Stephanie's pet. The top-notch boy bombarded Ash with all the Pokémon knowledge he had learned over the years. Enough. Before Ash could speak, Misty couldn't stand it anymore. Pikachu is not as bad as you said. It is Ash's best friend and very powerful. Pikachu held his head high and nodded in agreement. Ding. The plot mission is triggered, hit the top student and crush her self-esteem as a top student. Task reward, Top Master Ball, real 100% capture rate, including mythical beasts, top student intimacy increased by 50%. The system suddenly issued a mission, which made Ash confused. Crush the top student's self-esteem as a top student. The reward is a Top Master Ball and 50% intimacy. The system is totally making trouble. I just had a conflict with the top student and had a bad impression of her. As a result, the system deliberately issued a task to increase her intimacy, and even offered a reward that he couldn't refuse at all. Master Ball, developed and produced by Sylph Company, has now been completely stopped. The existing Master Balls are basically in the hands of bigwigs from all sides. This is a Pokeball that claims to be able to capture Pokémon 100% of the time. However, according to Ash's guess, the Master Ball produced by Sylph Company is definitely not good enough, at least it will not have any effect on the legendary first-level god. After all, it is definitely not difficult for Giovanni and even the leaders of evil organizations in each region to get a Master Ball. If ordinary Master Balls can capture first-level gods 100%, they would probably have been looking for the traces of first-level gods all over the world. In this case, the top-quality Master Ball sent by the system. The gold content is simply unimaginable. I'll take this task. After a little hesitation, Ash still followed the will of the system. A top-quality Master Ball, he even thought about who to give it to. It can only be said that it is not Ash's fault that his will is not firm enough, mainly because the system gives too much. Episode 28. Failure, Master Ball. Beat her up and give her back the intimacy. This top-notch kid is not an M. Ash looked at the top-notch kid with a somewhat strange expression. Oh. Really? The top-notch kid covered his mouth and chuckled, saying jokingly, in that case, let him fight me. It's just right for me to see the strength of the travel trainer. Excuse me, the ones I met before were all too weak. She has a beautiful appearance, elegant temperament, but a domineering personality. She looked down on people in her words. It's basically the same as the original plot. If it weren't for the system task triggering and the amazing rewards, Ash wouldn't waste time with her. Shaking his head, Ash took out a Pokeball from his waist. Is that so? Let's try it. I also want to see how much weight the academic Pokémon trainer who can let Pokémon Alliance open a backdoor has. Second-generation people like top-notch kid have a strong self-esteem. Only one irrefutable victory is needed to crush her pride and complete the task issued by the system. A trace of disdain flashed across the delicate face of the top-notch pride. The travel trainers who challenged her before were also full of big words. Their real strength was vulnerable. If rival is Pikachu, then I'll leave it to you, Cub1. The top-notch pride first sent out the ground-type Cub1. The ground-type is immune to electric skills. But after Pikachu appeared, he first avoided Cubone's Boomerang with speed, and then knocked it out with quick attack. Cub1 lost its combat ability. After defeating Cub1 with the reverse attribute, many students on the scene showed surprised and puzzled expressions. Damn, Pikachu actually defeated Cub1? He didn't use electric moves. This is level suppression. This Pikachu is so fast that it's hard to see its movements with the naked eye. The Pokémon Noble Academy is not completely like those unlearned hooligans with yellow-haired hedgehog heads. Many of the senior students could see that Ash had trained this Pikachu very well. The speed that burst out instantly was amazing. How could it be? The top student was also a little confused, but he reacted quickly and threw the second Pokeball. Then, Graveler, it's up to you. Graveler with blue qualification and level 25. Pikachu, come back. Ash called back Pikachu and sent Milotic to take over. Milotic made his debut on the first day of the first year. His graceful figure attracted the onlookers' amazement. The top student's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. This is a super rare flash Pokémon. How could Ash, a trainer who had just traveled for a short time, capture it? Just now, he was defeated miserably by attribute restraint. Now facing Milotic, there is no chance of winning. Milotic used Water Gun to defeat Graveler's Rock Throw attack, and then easily sent it away with a Water Pulse with a stockpile. Lost again? Two Pokémon were defeated in succession, and the top-ranking child looked slightly depressed. Retracted Graveler and sent out the third Pokémon. Electric-type Thunder Pokémon, blue qualification, level LV28. Attribute restraint plus level suppression. Just when she thought she had won, Milotic withstood the Thunder Shock attack of the Thunder Pokémon with his tyrannical strength, and Dragon Tail directly blew it away. The Thunder Pokémon rolled and fell out of the battlefield. This time it was a complete instant kill. You, the top student, are not very strong. You are not as good as those of us who go out to travel. After defeating her three Pokémon, Ash teased the top-ranking child and the group turned and left. She was left standing there as if struck by a bolt from the blue. Did I just lose like this? And these were matches that I shouldn't have lost at all. She was obviously doubting her life. Ding. Milotic's level was raised from LV25 to LV26. The levels of the Pokémon of the top students were not low, and they gave Milotic a lot of experience. Story mission: beat up the top students and crush her self-esteem as a top student. Mission completed. Reward: Top Master Ball, real 100% capture rate, including legendary beasts, top students' intimacy increased by 50%. Ash, who left the aristocratic school, received the mega prize for completing the system mission. Top Master Ball. A Pokeball that can capture any Pokémon with 100% accuracy. A strategy mission will be triggered after the capture is successful. Used to increase the intimacy of the captured Pokémon. Ensure that the fatal drawback of Master Ball in capturing Pokémon is solved. That is, the problem of Pokémon intimacy and loyalty level is not enough due to brutal capture. It is not easy to gain intimacy with legendary Pokémon, especially the first-level god. Most of them have lived for an unknown number of years and have arrogant personalities. There are very few trainers who can be recognized by them. If it were not for this top-quality Master Ball rewarded by the system, Ash would never pay attention to them. As for the capture targets that can be considered at this stage, Team Rocket's Mewtwo is undoubtedly a very good choice. Mewtwo was born from Mew's genes, but Team Rocket scientists paid too much attention to the strength when cloning and creating Mewtwo. As a result, the newly born Mewtwo surpassed Mew in terms of strength, but failed to inherit Mew's special ability to freely transform other Pokémon. The combat power level is close to the first level God, with 2 mage forms, plus a childlike mind. Mewtwo is simply the perfect target choice in his mind. In the playground of the aristocratic school, the top-ranked proud boy whose self-esteem was ruthlessly crushed by Ash sat alone on the grass, ignoring the voices pointing and talking around. The battle scene with Ash kept flashing in her mind. After a long time, she raised her head, and a forced smile flashed across her pale face. Is this the true strength of a traveling trainer? The so-called attribute restraint is like a joke in front of the opponent's Pokémon's rich combat experience. When the levels are equal, her Pokémon has no resistance. When the level is slightly higher, it is not a rival either. Does it mean that if she wants to defeat Ash's Pokémon, she must rely on the absolute level suppression of dozens of levels? And Ash is just a trainer who has been traveling for a short time. Ash from Pallet Town, I will remember you as a superior pride. This humiliation, I will get it back with interest at the Indigo Plateau Conference. Chief Pride, I think that Milotic is most likely a Pokémon cultivated by his parents and given to him when they went out on a trip. Don't worry about this win or loss. The yellow-haired hedgehog head, who had been waiting for a long time, came up to comfort the top pride with a flattering face, and at the same time did not forget to belittle Ash. The top pride is the top student in the lower grade, and his family background is even more unfathomable. If he can win her favor and gain her favor, in the future, not only will he be able to run rampant in school, but the elders at home who are very loyal to him will also look at him with new eyes. Humph, when you faced him just now, why were you so scared that you didn't even dare to take out the Pokeball? The yellow-haired hedgehog head was embarrassed and hesitated to speak. The top pride glanced at the yellow-haired hedgehog head coldly. A piece of trash like you is really not worthy of being a Pokémon trainer, after a furious retort. Stepping out with her long and fair legs, the top student headed straight for the college office building. Episode 29. Lost again, Pokémon Settlement. Jiaozi, have you really decided to go traveling after graduation? Have you thought it through? With your current grades, it's only a matter of time before you advance to the advanced level. By then, you can participate in the Indigo Plateau Conference with your college identity. Office. The head teacher looked at the beautiful girl in front of her and tried hard to persuade her. This is the top honors student in the lower grades, the object of the school's vigorous training. How can she just leave? Teacher, I have thought it through. Compared with the courses in the college, the various encounters on the journey and the encounters with trainers with distinctive fighting styles can really make me improve. I will participate in the Indigo Plateau Conference and win the championship with my own strength. The attitude of the top pride is quite firm. Ash used a battle to wake her up and let her know that Pokémon battles are full of uncertainties. Relying on theoretical knowledge alone is tantamount to talking on paper. Well, I'll ask. No need to ask, my grandfather has agreed. Hearing this, teacher didn't say anything more. The grandfather of the top pride is a member of the college board of directors. Dropping out of school was a thought for her. Even if the top-notch kid lied at this time, it had nothing to do with him. After completing the graduation procedures and healing the Pokémon, the top-notch kid couldn't wait to embark on a journey. Sister Jiaozi, I wish you a great performance at the Indigo Plateau Conference. Well, the champion must be my top-notch kid. Ambitiously left the academy. Walking on the forest path, the top-notch kid was in high spirits. Pokémon with a little potential could not escape her scrutiny. Butterfree, the level is a little lower than the training Pokémon of the academy, but as the first Pokémon I met on the journey, I want to capture it and train it well. Mankey? Forget it, it's too bad-tempered to get along with. By the way, Ash has a flash-colored Milotic. I have to capture a water-type Pokémon of the same weight as it. Gyarados is a good choice. The top-notch kid who set out on the journey regarded Ash as a strong rival. She swore in her heart. She must defeat the Pikachu trainer wearing a hat in the Indigo Plateau Conference, the largest event in the region. Let him cry in pain and regret the humiliation he had done to her today. Then he asked to stay by her side and travel together. She reluctantly accepted him as her little follower. Let him wash her clothes, cook for her, and eat her food every day. Of course, this is not because she has a crush on Ash. It's just that this guy is too hateful. That's right, there is no other reason. At the same time, following the direction pointed by the brown-haired boy, Ash and the other two have walked out of the foggy area. But it is worth mentioning that because it is close to the foggy area, it is very difficult to map this area. So the map leading to Vermilion City is not complete. Now, even Xiaojiang is helpless. Ash and his group are lost in the forest again. It is basically the same as the original plot, because Misty wants to capture an Oddish, Bulbasaur misunderstands and fights. In the end, Bulbasaur ran away with Oddish. Ash, who knew the plot development of the original world line, followed Bulbasaur to a relatively hidden settlement. A large number of Pokémon abandoned by human trainers gathered here. A Stephanie named Melanie lived here, specializing in providing help and healing injuries for these Pokémon abandoned by humans. Ash wanted to subdue Bulbasaur, who was the force of this settlement and was responsible for protecting the Pokémon in the settlement. When they arrived in front of the wooden house, several people greeted Stephanie Melanie, who was feeding the Pokémon. Xiaojiang started to go crazy as usual, but in a blink of an eye, he was pulled away by Misty's ears. Then Ash told her his purpose. Hey! Ash, do you want to subdue Bulbasaur? It's very strong. Melanie looked at Ash in surprise and said. There were trainers who had mistakenly entered here before and wanted to subdue Bulbasaur. But they were all defeated by Bulbasaur without exception. I know, but I am confident that I can subdue it. Pikachu. Ash and Pikachu replied confidently. Melanie smiled, nodded, and said, Bulbasaur is very talented, it's a waste to leave him here. In fact, it's not just him. I hope that the children I help here can find a suitable trainer or return to the outside world to live. It's a pity that there are many Pokémon here who have been abandoned by incompetent human trainers and have lost confidence in the outside world. How about this, I will take you to find Bulbasaur. Of course, whether you can get its recognition depends on your ability, Ash. Thank you so much, Miss Melanie. Melanie is the most trusted human of Bulbasaur. With her guarantee, Bulbasaur will definitely let down his guard. Ash's chance of subduing it will also increase a lot. Seeds. Ash and his friends found Bulbasaur under Melanie's guidance. At this time, it was playing with several Rattata and Oddish. After seeing Ash and his friends, it immediately became alert. Bulbasaur, relax, they are all my friends, with Melanie's guarantee. Bulbasaur's attitude towards Ash and his friends was no longer as bad as it was towards other human trainers, but it was still cold. There is still a big gap from a harmonious conversation. I'm sorry to make you laugh, Bulbasaur is kind-hearted, but he has a deep prejudice against human trainers. It's understandable, after all, there are many Pokémon that have been abandoned by humans living here. Well, Ash is right, please move to the wooden house and wait for me, I will talk to Bulbasaur. Melanie said to Ash and his friends in a gentle voice. Ash and his friends obediently retreated. Bulbasaur is the guardian of all Pokémon in this settlement. The past of these abandoned Pokémon, it must know something. It must have a very bad impression of human trainers. If you want to persuade it to change its view of human trainers, you have to ask Melanie, whom it trusts the most, to help. Ash is not in a hurry. If it really doesn't work, when the Rocket Trio in the original plot comes out to make trouble, he can think of other ways to get Bulbasaur's approval. Episode 30. Bulbasaur, Melanie's thoughts. Seed. When Bulbasaur came back with Melanie, the hostility in his eyes towards Ash and the other two had basically disappeared. His attitude was more inclined to scrutiny and curiosity. From Melanie, it learned that Melanie didn't want it to stay here and waste its years and excellent talents. She hoped that Bulbasaur could go out into the world and shine on his own stage. At the same time, she told Bulbasaur about her original intention of coming here to build a settlement to help weak wild Pokémon. She just hoped that these injured Pokémon could cheer up and shine again. After learning about Melanie's ambition, Bulbasaur's view of the settlement changed quietly, and he also understood Melanie's good intentions. After all, she couldn't take care of them for a lifetime. Sooner or later, the Pokémon in the settlement would have to go out, face the outside world and live their own lives. From this point of view, the human boy in front of him is indeed a good choice for him. In fact, when it first met Ash, it did not feel disgusted with this human boy. And he was very close to the Pikachu on his shoulder, and it can be seen that he is a responsible trainer who loves Pokémon. Of course, these alone can only make it recognize Ash's quality. As for the idea of conquering it, it must defeat itself head-on. It does not want to follow a trainer who is weaker than itself. Ash, Bulbasaur is very interested in traveling with you, but the premise is that you have to defeat it and prove your strength to it. Melanie walked in front of Ash and said, "Thank you for your trouble, Miss Melanie." Ash nodded quickly to express his gratitude. This is undoubtedly the best way for him to conquer. It is worthy of being one of his favorite Pokémon in the original world line. In this way, Bulbasaur really looks down on trainers like Go-Go who do not fight, do not establish emotional connections with Pokémon, and just throw balls to violently conquer them. Seed. The battle with Bulbasaur ended quickly. After seeing Pidgeotto's dazzling speed and swift attack, Bulbasaur recognized Ash. "Bulbasaur, please teach me more in the future." Seed. After healing Bulbasaur's injuries with potion, Ash put it back into the Pokeball. Ash, congratulations on your successful capture of Bulbasaur. Judging from the look in the child's eyes just now, he must have recognized you. I hope you can take good care of it in the future, and you can come back to the settlement when you have time. Seeing Ash patiently treating Bulbasaur, Melanie nodded with a little relief and gave instructions. "Don't worry, Miss Melanie, I will definitely let Bulbasaur's talents bloom at the Indigo Plateau Conference, Lucas." "Well, I will look forward to that day." Melanie looked at Ash and smiled warmly. At this time, Misty also walked up to congratulate Ash. "Ash, congratulations on catching Bulbasaur. It can be designated by the Kanto Alliance as a starter Pokémon for rookie trainers. Bulbasaur is stronger and rarer than most Pokémon that trainers can catch in the wild. Starter Pokémon are actually rare in the wild. After all, the demand for starter Pokémon by rookie trainers in an entire region is still very high every year. Ash can catch this Bulbasaur, and he still has the aura of the protagonist. Now the absolute main force Pokémon of the grass type is also available. Pokémon, Bulbasaur, odd color, attribute, grass, poison, level, LV25, qualification, gold, ability, chlorophyll, skills, tackle, growl, vine whip, razor leaf, leech seed, poison powder, sleep powder, seed bomb, takedown, sweet scent. Items, none. Chlorophyll ability, Bulbasaur's speed will increase on sunny days, an ability that is very friendly to Bulbasaur, but not very suitable for its final form Venusaur. With Venusaur's huge size, the acceleration effect of chlorophyll can be basically ignored. But in the original plot, Bulbasaur didn't want to evolve. The evolution of Bulbasaur in the Wonderful Garden was stopped by itself for some reason. Ash always respects the wishes of Pokémon. Besides, compared to Venusaur, who can only act as a grass-type turret, he really likes the flexible and changeable Bulbasaur. It seems that I have to find a chance to talk to Bulbasaur in the future. It would be best if I could get a piece of Everstone for it to carry, so that it wouldn't accidentally evolve in battle one day. With the system, even if it doesn't evolve, there will definitely be other ways to make up for the damage of the lack of cotton sock seeds. Before leaving, Ash released Bulbasaur again. It's unknown how long it will take to come back this time. This will be a good opportunity for Bulbasaur to say goodbye to the abandoned Pokémon it used to protect. Before leaving, Xiaojiang also expressed his love to Melanie and said that he was willing to stay and help. Unfortunately, Melanie declined. After saying goodbye to Melanie, Ash and his group continued their journey. With Bulbasaur, a local Pokémon who is very familiar with the surrounding forest, Ash and his group finally got rid of the trouble of getting lost. The next gym will be against Team Rocket's Mashi. The average level of Ash's Pokémon is only around LV25. The overall level is still too low. The highest level Pikachu is LV31, and Milotic, who has great potential, is only level 26. The first Butterfree he captured is even only LV21, the lowest level among Ash's Pokémon. If it were in the game world, he would definitely bet on Pikachu and Milotic without any care and raise their levels to the maximum. It is not impossible to kill the entire Indigo Alliance with them. But this is the real world, after all. Since they are Pokémon he captured, he must be responsible for training them well. Grow with everyone and strive for the highest honor in Pokémon battles. At present, the frequency of outdoor battles and challenging high-level trainers must be increased a little. Level up the Pokémon with top-quality qualifications as soon as possible. After leaving the settlement, Ash leveled up with wild Pokémon all the way. When he meets a stranger, he will challenge him. At the same time, he will send Pidgeotto to fly around to find out the whereabouts of the Squirtle core in the original world line. The 3 Pokémon of the Kanto family are already very rare in the wild. Among the 3 Pokémon of the Kanto family that Ash encountered in the early stage, only Squirtle brought a group of minions. He plans to help Misty get a Squirtle. Since the Cerulean gym mission raised Misty's intimacy, she has become more gentle to him. The two will also flirt like ordinary couples, but they have not yet confirmed their relationship.